I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and part 2 of the LG Optimus 4X HD and Samsung Galaxy Nexus dogfight starts in just a second. But first, some love to Best Buy Mobile for hooking us up with phones like this, iPhones, S3s, and more for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll be set up your email, your web, your contacts, all that stuff. So when you walk out the door, you're set up and good to go on your mobile device. Let's take a look and see, is it the Optimus 4X HD or the Galaxy Nexus that's deserving of that Android crown? We'll find out in part 2, which starts right now. So we begin part 2, and if you watched part 1, go back and watch it first of all if you didn't. But if you watched, you remember that I was talking about web browsing and AT&T service being terrible in my office. Well, I walked out into the break room, got a signal by pointing them kind of close to the window, and it's kind of frustrating I have to do that in 2012. But now, PhoneDog is loaded up. So I wanted to show you the pinch to zoom capabilities on both of these devices, and they're both relatively responsive. Again, if you're coming into this and you didn't watch part 1, it's got a 1.5 gigahertz quad-core NVIDIA Tegra 3 processor over here. Over here, you've got a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core TI OMAP CPU, and then a 4.65-inch display versus 4.7. Both HD. This is IPS. This is Super AMOLED. HD with Pentile technology. So both are great for browsing. You're going to see some minor differences here. Obviously, this is stock Jelly Bean, Android 4.1. This is Android 4.0 with LG's custom user interface. And you can see some differences in the tabs, but overall, you'll notice transitions are relatively responsive. I've got my tabs here, and I can scroll back through pretty easily like that, and then bring it back up. And then, of course, my menu button, which is what I was talking about from part 1, it jumps around depending on what application you're in, is up at the top this time, and you've got your ability to request the desktop site. It's kind of similar equivalent of the static menu button, which is down here on the LG Optimus 4X HD, but similar stuff over here, similar settings, and I can change the browser. But overall, very impressed with the performance on both of these devices. You can see portrait to landscape transitions, reasonably fast on both, little to no lag there, and I can switch it back over, just for example, to landscape mode, and I can see when I'm in landscape mode, Tuesday's hot picks up there at the top as well, which is kind of a cool little feature. But then both are great in the web browsing department. Now I want to focus on the personalization stuff before we move into cameras, because I want to show you some of the things that LG has done on this, and we all love the ability to personalize our devices. So we're going to go into home screen, for example, and you're going to see the theme. Now, I can change it to Optimus. I have it on Biz right now, Marshmallow, and then Cozy Wall. But you'll notice I'm going to bring this in so you can take a look. Forgive me while it's focusing. Let's get it in here. Let it focus in on the text. And you can see the icons are slightly different between Biz, Optimus, Cozy Wall, and then Marshmallow. So little icon differences depending on which theme you decide to go with. I have it on Biz. You can change the screen effects as well to accordion. Let's just do accordion, for example. I can change the wallpaper, of course. And then I can go into display and see some other stuff. Font type, font size. See my types of font that I have there. And then you'll see a little bit of a difference in the way the transition effects operate on this device. So obviously wallpaper stuff you can change. You can press and hold here. Pressing and holding on this one just brings up wallpaper stuff. You have to physically go into the widgets tab. Over here, much like the HTC One X and Sense 4, let me get that out of the light. I had that same problem in part 1. You can see I can scroll through each one of the individual 7 home screens. I can add apps if I want to. I can add widgets. I can change wallpapers. And I can kind of do it all from one spot. I can bring up a widget here. I can go over here, I can change the wallpaper, customize that around as I see fit. And when I'm done, I just hit the home button and everything is changed over and back to normal, along with these widgets being on the main screen. So of course Yahoo Weather widget, like I said earlier, comes with it out of the gate. It's one of LG's custom widgets. So if personalization is very important to you, the LG Optimus 4X HD is going to win between these two devices. If raw speed is more important to you, you're not really concerned with how things look. Don't get me wrong, they've certainly made some huge improvements to the fonts and the overall look and feel of Android 4.1, and they did this with Ice Cream Sandwich, stock Ice Cream Sandwich as well. But I still think coming into this as a mainstream consumer, I'd recommend something like the Optimus 4X HD. I think user interfaces make Android easier to operate. I still think Android has kind of a nerd appeal to it in its stock form, even in Android 4.1. So that said, let's take a look at the camera on both of these devices. 5 megapixel camera on the Galaxy Nexus, 8 megapixel camera over here on the Optimus 4X HD. And let me pull one of my business cards. I don't think I have one nearby. I'll pull this little card that I got from Negri Electronics because I want to focus on text. And this was a little thank you card that they send out, which I thought was pretty cool. And you could change the settings: flash, brightness, focus, image size, scene mode, and more. So I can go into scene mode and see some different options. I can go into focus if I want to. I can do face tracking. I can do brightness and change all this stuff around. I can flip it around to the front-facing camera. But I want to show you this. and we're going to focus in here and let it focus, and we're going to take the pictures. And then same thing over here, and you'll see some differences to the application. I can scroll back and forth, much like a Windows Phone, in between the active camera and then those as well. So that's kind of nice. I can come down here and you'll see it'll autofocus. Bam. Quick and easy, and you'll see the transition effect there as I'm moving between live picture and then text. So honestly, the camera's kind of a wash. This does have an 8 megapixel camera. Both shoot video at 1080p. I will say there's no noticeable difference, at least to me, in between. Ooh. Let's see here. There we go. No noticeable difference in between the two, in all honesty. If we were using something like the Galaxy S3 or the One X, there's a noticeable difference. They have fantastic 8 megapixel cameras. I don't really see a difference in day-to-day use between either one of these. And I've been working with both of these, taking pictures, even though these haven't been posted to the site, taking pictures on my days at work, taking pictures of sample things, little plaques on the wall, things like that. And, honestly, there's really no noticeable difference between either one of these devices. They're really about the same in the picture department. So let's take a look at Quadrant Standard as well and load that up. Quadrant Standard here. I'm not going to bother to do a speed test, honestly, because the reception's so poor in this in the apartment, or in the office rather. What I will say, HSPA Plus on both of these devices, so you should get pretty decent speeds with AT&T if you're in one of those markets. So we'll load up Quadrant Standard here and get these to run, and hopefully we can get enough data to actually transmit the Quadrant Standard scores over to the server so we can get a result on both of these devices. All in all, though, earpiece quality nice and loud. I do notice a slight improvement in signal on the Galaxy Nexus over the Optimus 4X HD. When I was in fringe AT&T areas, here, for example, I noticed that I can usually retain 1 bar of service on the Galaxy Nexus while I'm going down to 0. For example, these were sitting on my desk a minute ago. I had 1 bar of service with the Galaxy Nexus. I had 0. It was in completely no service mode on the Optimus 4X HD. So I do notice the wireless radio is ever so slightly stronger in picking up a signal on the Galaxy Nexus as opposed to the Optimus 4X HD. Now that said, the battery department, you would think the battery would be much better on this one. 2,150 milliamp hour battery over here, 1,750 milliamp hour battery over here. Honestly, they're about the same. I get about 10 hours with both of these devices, maybe 9.5 with this one with moderate use, and I consider it moderate use to be calling, text messaging, browsing the web, downloading apps, just some minor stuff like that. You'll want to carry a car charger. That said, this thing charges really fast, so if you're somebody like me that lives off of a 15 or 20 minute charge, you carry the iPhone forever, and you love how fast the iPhone charges, the Optimus 4X HD could be the perfect device for you. Let's hope we can get these transmitted off to Quadrant Standard. Let's see here. Like I said, reception's pretty rough in this area. Over here, 2,191. Now keep in mind, older processor, 1.2 gigahertz dual-core TI-OMAP processor. I'm going to hold this thing up and see if we can get signal. I'm going to do it like 1999. I'm going to party in my office like it's 1999. I'm just going to kind of hold this thing around and see if I can get any little amount of signal. Come on. Sending. It's thinking really hard about this. It's a little warm on the back, too, that you can tell it's processing this pretty hard. And there we go, 4,957. So take Quadrant Standard with a grain of salt, because honestly with Project Butter, this thing performs just as smoothly as the Optimus 4X HD does. But that said, Quadrant Standard 4,957, 2,191 over here. Both of these are awesome devices. It's really going to depend on what you prefer, in all honesty. That said, you've got a $600 device here, roughly 600 bucks, through third-party retailers, Negri Electronics, which is where we purchased ours, and then places like Expansis USA. If this were subsidized and in the US and available for like 100 bucks or 150 bucks, it'd be a totally different story. The fact that it's not is kind of the unfortunate thing about the Optimus 4X HD. Over here, this isn't subsidized either, but you get it for $349 through Google Play, and considering the price of unlocked unsubsidized devices, $349 for a device that's running Google's latest operating system is a steal, and it packs a cool feature like Google Now. So I can say, Google, Charlotte weather. And let's see if it'll do it with a data connection. Like I said, it is a pretty rough data connection in my office, but Google Now is pretty cool, much like Siri on iOS, and I probably shouldn't say that or else Apple may try to sue Google, and that wouldn't be a good thing. But you can see,
here's the forecast for the next few days.
And you can see it talks and brings up these nice cards. This was announced at Google I/O earlier in the year, and you got the web results down here at the bottom as well, and I can come back up to the card. Now, it'll remember where I'm looking at weather, and it'll say stuff like this in the notifications bar, or when I'm traveling, it'll say weather at home, and when I'm traveling and it knows where I live. It's kind of creepy, actually, but it knows where I live, and it'll say stuff like 10 minutes from your office uptown to home, or 15 minutes with traffic, or 20 minutes with traffic, and it's really beneficial. I've been really impressed with it. Google, how old is Bill Gates? And again, it may take its sweet time.
Bill Gates is 56
There you
years
go.
old.
And it's got the date right there. So it's quick and easy to use. The cards look nice. It's intended, again, to compete with Siri. And it does, at least for me, it works wonders around Siri. And I like the fact that it kind of remembers your preferences, remembers where you live, remembers your preferred time zone, and works from there. The only challenge is when you're like me and you're in like 900 different time zones a month, it tends to get a little bit confused. It thought I lived in San Francisco for a while. When I came back from Google I/O, as much as I would like to live in San Francisco, that is not in fact where I live. Finally, it's changed over to Charlotte. So the winner here in the dogfight is the Samsung Galaxy Nexus, the unlocked Samsung Galaxy Nexus. Again, the reason why, Jelly Bean, great operating system, not to say that this won't get it at some point, and while this is a more robust, powerful device with a quad-core processor, a little bit larger display, and a little bit bigger battery, it's still a little bit pricey. $600 to bring the sucker into the US. Now, if you're watching this and these are available on your respective carrier in Europe, it's a little bit of a different story, but right now, $350, latest Google operating system, features like Google Now, and a device that still, even almost a year later, still has a nice design to it and still works relatively well. The Galaxy Nexus is the winner. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for continuing coverage of both of these devices. I have a bunch of additional dogfights coming with the Optimus 4X HD. It's going to go head-to-head against devices like the One X, the Galaxy S3, and more, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, be sure to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/PhoneDog. Hit that like button. Tell us what you love, what you hate about your device, and just stop in to say hello. Facebook.com/PhoneDog. Hit me up on Twitter as well, PhoneDog_Aaron, and on Facebook, myself, at Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB. And be sure to cast your vote for your favorite smartphone in PhoneDog's official smartphone rankings. Thanks so much for watching. Much more to come on these two devices on PhoneDog.com. We'll see you next time.